Hi everyone, Senator Christian here, your parliamentarian, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation about parliamentary procedure. What is it? Why do we do it? And all the specifics to it. So let's just get right into it. So, parliamentary procedure. This will be a very basic and short version of what it is, just so I can give you a little overview. I don't want you all to get overwhelmed because parliamentary procedure is a lot and it can be very overwhelming. So just remember to take everything in bits and pieces, pause when you need to, and there's always time to review, and I will provide more resources after this video for you to review. So let's get into it. What is parliamentary procedure? Parliamentary procedure is rules that limit, guide, and protect the individual. So it's a set of rules essentially that make it so that things run more smoothly and that everyone gets a chance to voice their opinions. It protects the rights of the minority. So, like as you see in Congress, the minority in the Senate is the Democrats. Just because they're the minority doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to talk and voice their opinions. That's their job to do that. So there has to be rules put in place so that they're allowed to speak, that they're allowed to vote on things, they're allowed to voice their concerns, amend bills. And that's why we use parliamentary procedure in our Senate too, because we're not always going to agree on everything, but you should still be able to voice your opinions when you feel it's needed. So remember, it's not that the decision you make must be correct, but each decision you make must be correctly made. So what that means is, like, if you want to vote on a bill, you would say, I move that we vote on the bill being presented on the floor. You would not say, come on y'all, let's just go ahead and vote on the bill so we can get through this meeting and hurry up. That's not correct parliamentary procedure. That's not respectful to the people presenting, and that's not respectful to your fellow senators, because you're supposed to be professional. You're representing the student body, so you have to follow some type of order and rules in the meeting so that things are smooth and always respected. So why do we use parliamentary procedure? The first one is to facilitate the transaction of business. Senate gives out thousands of dollars each year. And, this year we don't have a budget, but we're still doing things that are very impactful to people. And we have to make sure that we are able to get a lot done in our meetings without wasting people's time, because this is a professional setting. You are an elected representative of the student body, so I'm sure they do not want you to just go in there and talk freely, because that's not getting anything done. And again, when Senate is working with money, you have to make sure that you're being very careful reading the agenda, knowing how to discuss different proposals, knowing how to voice your opinions if you feel like something should be taken out or something should be added. Like, that's valid stuff, so that we aren't just doing things that don't fully represent what the students will want. To promote cooperation and harmony, I talked about this before, but we have to be able to work together in order to get a lot of things done, especially this school year, while we are facing unprecedented times and different circumstances that we would never be in. We have to work together to ensure that we are achieving great things. And we have done this so far, so let's keep it going. So to ensure that all members have equal rights, privileges, and obligations, I talked about that in the last slide, and ensuring that the majority has the right to decide, but the minority has the rights, which must be protected as well. So the majority vote is gonna pass whatever, or it's gonna kill a bill. But if the minority still voices their opinion, still gets a chance to talk, that's making sure things are fair. So what we're doing should be representative of what the majority wants, but everyone should be able to speak and voice their opinions. So basic principles of parliamentary procedure are: a quorum must be presented for the group to act on anything. Quorum, as defined by our bylaws, is 50% plus one. So say we have 24 senators in our body. We need to have 13 senators present at a meeting in order to vote, amend, pass legislation, do anything. Because if you have 4 members at a meeting, for example, that's not representative of the student body. That's not representative of the Senate body or the majority of the Senate. So if you don't have a majority there, you cannot vote because there's not enough people voicing their concerns, opinions, and giving input. So then it just wouldn't be fair to the students and to ourselves. Only one question should be considered at any given time on the floor. Essentially, this is because we do not want people talking over each other. That's disruptive, that's disrespectful, and that is unprofessional. We have to make sure that there's only one thing going on so that everyone stays on the agenda and stays on task so that we can move through things and get things done. No member should speak until recognized by the chair. In our Zoom setting, you would raise your hand in the participant section on Zoom. Senator Allen would say, Senator Christian, and then I would say, Chairwoman Allen, I move like you, then I can speak because once you're recognized, that means that there's nothing else going on, no one else is talking, and it is your chance to talk. So that's a respect thing. And then the chair should maintain strict impartiality during discussion. This is because the chair is supposed to be facilitating and running the meetings. So if Senator Allen were to go and be like, yeah, Senator Banks, I agree with you. Yeah, Senator Johnson, I don't agree with that. Like, no, like in the middle of people talking during a discussion, that wouldn't be orderly. That's unprofessional, and it's just not right. So the chair can also only vote if it will affect the outcome. So Senator Allen can vote to break a tie that is defined in our bylaws, and it is because she is still an SOB senator. She represents her student body. So if there is something down to the wire, she should be able to vote. And also, if she's presenting a bill, Senator Allen is able to not be impartial on her bill because that's her thing. Like, she's able to present and talk about what she created and have people ask her questions. That makes sense because she's representative of the student body just as we are. So let's get into the importance of an agenda. So an agenda is a formal listing of the business that is to be conducted at a meeting. I'm not going to read all of these points verbatim because you all should know what an agenda is. We had one at our last meeting, but an agenda is needed because you don't want to be in a meeting that goes on and on for hours. We've sat in classes where there are no PowerPoints and professors are going on and on talking about things that are not related to the class, or students are bringing up things that are not related and you want to learn. It's the same thing in our meetings. We want to get things done. So we have to have an orderly way to know what we're going to do at the meetings, how long it might take, and just what things we might need to focus on more. So remember, our agenda is presented before the meeting in an email. So you always want to read the agenda before the meeting so you know what's going on and you're not confused, because it just makes it smoother and that we can get through the meeting much faster. And remember, a well-planned agenda is critical to a well-run, organized meeting, like we just talked about. So this is an example of an agenda. Our Senate agendas will always have a call to order, student concerns, general announcements, approval of the minutes, sometimes committee reports at the first of the month, old business, new business, and then we'll have comments at the end, and then we adjourn. And you see, it is very specific what is going to be talked about in each section. The new business always has the new pieces of legislation that we're voting on, or the confirmations we're voting on, because it should be clear what you're getting into at a meeting so that you're able to review any documents you need to look at, the pieces of legislation before the meeting, and any like bios of people we might be confirming. So next is types of motions. This can be a little bit challenging at first, and this might take a little bit longer, so don't be afraid to pause and go back when you need to. So privileged motions are motions that do not relate to a pending question, but they are very important, so they take precedence over all of the other questions, which are motions. So privileged motions would be like if someone is screaming in the background and their microphone is on while someone is trying to present a piece of legislation. That is disruptive. Senators are not going to know what's going on. So if you hear that, you're able to say, point of personal privilege, I cannot hear the speaker. I'm sure the Senate cannot hear the speaker. So can we please turn all of our microphones on mute if you are not presenting so that we can be respectful and hear what's going on? This is a privileged motion because it is affecting what is being worked on at the meeting, and it needs to be heard immediately in order to effectively move on. So incidental motions are motions that arise from another question that is pending and must be decided on before the question which they are out of, or the question out of which they arise. So this is made as a result of another motion. Incidental motions are things like, let's point an example. So it's like something that we could look at as an appeal. That's when there's a vote and I count the vote. I announce how many people have voted in favor, have opposed, and then abstained. And then Senator Allen could accidentally make a mistake, and this will be recorded in the minutes. So if you are sitting there yourself and you see that more people have voted and that is not spoken once we pass a bill, you have the right to say, Chairwoman Allen, I would like to appeal to the previous vote, and I'm asking that we do a recount of the votes so that we can ensure that the number of people who voted on this was recorded and taken down in the minutes correctly. So that is an incidental motion because it happens from a specific incident, which is the motion that was made before it. And yeah, we'll get into that in the next slides. But a subsidiary motion is exactly what it sounds like. It is something that applies to other motions for the purpose of appropriately disposing of them. So this is like if you were reading a piece of legislation and there was a part in it that you did not like and you would like to strike out some verbiage in the piece of legislation and then amend it to say something else. That is substituting something, that's adding on to something so that you can properly move forward with whatever you want to do. And then a main motion is the motions we use on the daily. They're used to bring up a new subject or idea to the group. So an example I'll be using throughout this of a main motion is if Senate wanted to take a trip to Congress, if we were in DC, to see how parliamentary procedure is run in a professional and larger setting. The person would say, I move that the Senate will take a trip to Congress on October 23rd to see how this is done in a professional setting. That is a main motion because it's a new idea brought to the floor and the Senate body. So some different types of privilege motions are to adjourn a meeting. That is when we say the meeting is going to be officially over. So you would say, Chairwoman Allen, I move that this meeting be adjourned at 8 p.m. Then she'll say, she'll call for seconds. Once someone seconds the motion, then the meeting can be adjourned. Second is to fix a time to which to adjourn a meeting. So this is like if in the agenda it says the meeting is going to be over at 9 p.m., which usually our Senate meetings are. But you see at 8:30 p.m., we're still on old business and we haven't even gotten to the new pieces of legislation we need to vote on. This motion allows you to say, Chairwoman Allen, I move that we fix a time to which to adjourn this meeting at 9 instead of 8 p.m. Sorry, there's some thunder in the background. If it's loud, that's fine. But this basically changes the time that a meeting will be over so that you have enough time to do what you need to do before the meeting ends. Question of privilege. This is if you're presenting a bill and then someone who sponsored the bill has an addition to what you were said, and they want to make sure that the Senate body is going to know this specific part about a bill. They're able to say, question of privilege, Senator Thomas, didn't we write this bill because we want to do blah blah blah? Because it's something that they worked on, they're able to immediately say question of privilege and then present what they need to say. Recess, you all know what that is. It is a short break or intermission that does not fully end the meeting. So if we are in a meeting that is probably going to take 3 hours and everyone needs a bathroom break, you're able to say, I move that we have a recess in 5 minutes so that everyone is able to stretch, go to the bathroom, and do what we need to do before we move on to the next thing on the agenda. Pretty simple, straightforward. And then call for orders of the day. You saw, let's go back. On the example, it says call to order. Each thing on the agenda is the orders of the day. So like the orders of the day are the things that are going to be done at the meeting. So if a group deviates from the agenda and you want to go back to following the agenda because people are wasting time, you're able to say, Chairwoman Allen, I would like to call for the orders of the day so that we're able to focus on the items on the agenda. Simple. So incidental motions, like I said, so the first one, okay, let me get back. That thunder was loud. So the first one is point of order. This is usually said by myself or Chairwoman Allen when someone makes a mistake in parliamentary procedure, but senators are also allowed to say this. You can say, point of order, we are not allowed to speak during a debate when the senator who created the bill is speaking first. Because remember, there can only be one person speaking at a time and one question on the floor at a time. So it's just a respect thing, and we always have to follow parliamentary procedure. So if you see something, call it out, but do it in a respectful manner so that you are helping the person learn what they did wrong and moving things along like in a better way at the meeting. We talked about how to appeal. It's used when a member feels that the chairperson has made a decision not in the agreement of the group, so you're able to appeal and try to redo what was done before, or to ask the chairperson to reconsider the decision that was made. Suspend the rules is used to deviate from the agenda or allow for special circumstances. So usually this will be used if there's a guest speaker. You could say, Chairwoman Allen, I move that we suspend the rules so that the guest speaker is able to present how to do blah, blah, blah. This allows whoever is coming into the meeting to talk about something, and they don't necessarily have to follow the agenda or specific parliamentary procedure, and people are still able to respectfully hear them, and the meeting is able to continue. And then once they finish, you would go back to participating in the rules of parliamentary procedure. So a division of the House is used when a member disagrees with the vote stated by the chair. You would say, I call for a division of the House, and then Senator Allen would say, all who are in favor of this bill, please raise your hand. They will vote. All that oppose, raise your hand. They will vote. And all who abstain, raise your hand. So it creates, instead of like the polling system we use, you can specifically see each senator who voted in what direction. But this is usually used at like in Congress-like settings when there are two different sides, Republican, Democrat, and you need to see on which side who does what. But we can use it in our Senate too. Always challenge yourself to apply bigger things to our meetings. Parliamentary inquiry is when you have a question about parliamentary law. You could refer to me by saying, Chairwoman Allen, I would like to ask Senator Christian a specific question about parliamentary procedure on how to withdraw your motion, which is what we're going to talk about next. So you're able to ask a question about parliamentary procedure at any point during a meeting, and you just say, I would like to raise a point of parliamentary inquiry, or specifically refer to me as the parliamentarian to ask a question. And then I will help you, of course. So, to withdraw is used when a member wishes to withdraw his or her motion. So, say, for example, with Black Panther Day, someone tried to put an amendment down and said that stated, I amend that we have this showing at Banneker and on the lawn so that more people can participate in seeing Black Panther. But then after the Senate discusses that amendment, they're like, that's not a good idea. I don't want to do that anymore. It just makes sense to do it on the lawn. They could say, Chairwoman, I move to withdraw my previous motion that stated having the movie be shown at Banneker and on the lawn. And yeah, so that's saying that I don't want to do that anymore. Never mind. Take that out. And then that will no longer be on the bill, counted in the minutes, whatever. This can be used like in anything. It doesn't have to be specifically on a bill. It can be used in discussion, stuff like that. So division of the question is used when a member feels like the motion is really two motions in one. This happens a lot at our meetings, so pay attention to this. If someone feels like a motion should be split into two, they could say, I move that we have a division of the question and split this motion into one stating this and another motion stating this. So it just splits it up so that it's more clear and that you're able to proceed with two motions instead of one that's like a basically run-on sentence type motion. Object to the consideration of the question allows a group to avoid a motion entirely if they feel like it would not be in the best interest of the group to consider it. This needs a 2/3 vote, because if a person wants to just cancel a whole motion, they can't do that on their own. The majority of the Senate body needs to agree, because that can completely deter the meeting, and it basically is silencing in a respectful manner, but sometimes people don't do it respectfully, like in Congress. This is like silencing whatever motion was before, so you have to make sure the majority agrees on what they're doing. Subsidiary motions, to lay it on the table. This is used to postpone a decision on the motion until the next meeting at the latest. So, it is exactly what it says. It is used to talk about something at the next meeting or later in the meeting if senators want to defer action on whatever is being discussed at that time. So it just makes it so that you can drag out something and give it a little bit more time if you feel like it shouldn't be voted on or a decision shouldn't be made on whatever is being presented at that time. This is a very useful motion, so take note of that. Previous question is used when a member wants to force an immediate vote on a motion. And because this is so powerful, it requires a second. It's not amendable, not debatable, and it needs a 2/3 majority vote. And whoever is speaking cannot be interrupted, of course. Like, this is a very powerful motion. So if you want to stop all discussion, stop all like amendments being put on the bill, someone could call for the previous question and then force the Senate to vote on whatever is being presented immediately if 2/3 of the Senate would like to do that. Postpone, definitely. This is like laying something on the table, but it is used to remove an issue from the floor to be brought up at the next meeting. So it gives a specific time of when you're going to refer to whatever is being brought up. And this is a lot of times used to defer something to a different day if senators feel as if it is not being productively discussed, and if people will need more time to think about something that is being presented. If it's like super important or people are confused, you can postpone something. Definitely. So the next one is to limit or extend debate. This allows for more or less discussion during a debate or a discussion, and it is essentially what it says it is. We don't really need to go into that, but it does need a 2/3 majority vote. And to refer to a committee, that is used to give something to a small group so that it can be discussed and worked on there. And so this is like if there was a bill being presented by a VP, and then the Senate felt like this would be a good bill for the External Affairs Committee to work on. Someone could propose to refer the bill to the External Affairs Committee so that they're able to do more research on the topics being discussed. Simple, easy, very productive in Senate though. So remember that one. And to amend, I have a whole slide about how to amend, but this is used to change a motion, but never the intent of a motion. So this is if you have a bill and say, I already gave an example, but it just makes it so that you can add things to make a bill better or to kind of change it in a way that would be more in the interest of the students and the Senate body. And then to postpone indefinitely is used to remove an issue completely from the floor, and this is permanent. There's no more debate, there's no more discussion, so it does need a 2/3 vote because this is very, very, very powerful, and it can be it basically is to kill a bill or to silence whatever motion is being brought to the floor. So use this wisely, and senators always vote on this very wisely if someone is trying to postpone something indefinitely. And then we have main motions. So main motions, I talked about these, are used to bring a question or items of business to the table. This was when I mentioned my example of taking a trip to Congress. That's a new idea being brought to the floor. They can only be brought up in order only when no other motion is pending. So you cannot bring up a main motion when you're already talking about another bill, because that basically would be you okay, we're done with this now, let's move on to something else. No, that's not how you do things in parliamentary procedure. You have to wait your turn so that we're all being respectful, and then bring up the main motion after whatever is being discussed is done. And then it requires a second, it's debatable, and usually requires a majority vote. Our Senate, if we're going to do something, it most likely is going to require the majority of the Senate to agree. So that's 50%. And then unclassified motions, these are motions that don't fit into a specific category but are very important. So we talked about how to lay something on the table, but this motion, take from the table, is used to bring a motion that was previously tabled back on the floor. So this is to bring something up that someone said they wanted to lay on the table until the next meeting. Okay, now we're at the next meeting. Let's take this from the table and discuss it again. And then if that motion passes, the chair will state that the motion is back on the floor, it is debatable, and it's amendable. And then Senator Allen will ask for discussion, and you're able to discuss, vote, and do whatever with the motion or bill that was postponed at the previous meeting. To rescind is kind of like to withdraw, but it allows the member to remove some action previously taken. So this is like if they would like to redo their vote on a specific amendment, they're allowed to do that, and then it will be counted in the minutes so that there's a record of that. So yeah, you get to basically do a redo of whatever you did before if you change your mind, but don't use this a lot because it can become very unproductive. But still use it when you feel it is needed, but just make sure you think before you make decisions always when voting on things and discussing. So to reconsider allows a discussion and a revote on an action previously taken. This is different because a rescind motion is for you personally, but to reconsider something is for the entire Senate. So if people vote on an amendment, but you're like, we need to redo that, and maybe there are some things that we should add to this amendment to make it better. You're allowed to reconsider it, and then the whole Senate will discuss and revote on whatever action was previously taken on that amendment. So these are very good motions to remember. Please continue to part 2 of parliamentary procedure to find out how to make a motion, how things are amended, how we conduct votes, commonly used motions, common mistakes, and out of order motions.